My guest today is a really close friend of mine, and in my opinion, he's a perfect example of someone who's a global citizen. He's lived in 4 cities across 3 countries. He was born in India and then later found his footing in Toronto, Canada at the age of 10 years old. Since then, his journey has been a true masterclass in global loop, from studying law in Birmingham to establishing his career in central London to then eventually moving back to Toronto, where he currently resides. He joins us today from his home in Toronto to talk about what it's like to unpack your life in a new city, and then to eventually move back where it all started. Welcome, Saurabh. How's it going?
Good, man. How's everything with you? How's London
Good,
like?
good. Really excited for this podcast.
Yeah, man. Same. This was a really cool idea. Coming up with this, and I know that you've been wanting to do this for a while. So it's cool. I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Actually, it's fun.
First of all, Saurabh, congratulations for becoming a father. How does
Oh
it feel?
man,
How does it
thanks,
feel?
bro. It feels unreal, bro. And you know how we've traveled the world together, and we've gone through so many places, and like now finally to be in Canada and like just have a baby, it's quite a different feeling, and it's very, very exciting, and it's beyond words that I can express how amazing it is to be a father. So genuinely really, really fun. And I can't wait for you to finally come, you and Mary, to come down and like meet Sia. So really excited for that, and continue our adventures. That's one of the keys, right? Like, no matter when you stop, once you're like a globetrotter, you're always a globetrotter. So you're always like looking for the next trip, you're looking for the next experience, meeting people. So yeah, it's been really cool. And that's why I'm really excited for this podcast as well, to be honest, because it'll be fun to kind of recap and like relive a lot of our adventures and memories, and like a lot of, different things that we've gone through together. So yeah, it'll be fun.
No, it will be honestly. And to be honest, I was just going through your journey, and you are what we call a full circle global citizen. Basically, you started off somewhere, you've traveled around for different reasons, and now you've gone back to your home city again to
Yeah.
basically settle. So we'll unpack that through this podcast, and we'll go through that journey to learn your experiences and what were your sensory anchors when it came to when you left home to go to a new city. What was that experience like? And then for you, what is the definition of home? Because I think it varies from people to people, but it'll be really interesting to find out, what your take is on what is home for a person.
That's cool that you bring that up. It's a very interesting question, because I think, I mean, to each their own sort of situation, and what the home is, and you rightly put that. For me, home, I think, is always where it's all about people. So for me, home is wherever people are, right? And I connect a lot. Like, I consider myself a bit of an extrovert, so I really kind of soak in the energy from people. So people is what I call home. So like, when I was in India, my entire family was in India. When I was in Canada, my family was in Canada. When I went to study, I had a family in Milton Keynes, which I used to visit them quite often. And then I also had a friend from here who was doing law in UK. So, I've always really connected with people. And then obviously when I went for work, you were there, and, you were one of my biggest pillars. So I think home for me is always somebody that you're close to, somebody you resonate with, and together you kind of feel that you're at home, right? So I need somebody. So it doesn't mean that I have to have a relationship with that person from back home or something. Sometimes you just connect with that person in that country. So I think when you're traveling, in order to make a place home, and it doesn't have to be like you have to spend 2 years at a place. It could be sometimes even a week, right? But you really connect with somebody, and that becomes home, right? Like, I mean, for you, when you came to Canada the first time, that's how our friendship became. And it was just one random evening at UFT St. George campus, and we just connected. And I was like, oh, Karan is home for me, right? Like, and you came home, and like we had a really good time together, and our friendship has grown since then to now. So I think home for me is just like who I'm with, who my people are, and like just having a really good time and sharing my experiences with the people that I love.
I think that's a really, really interesting point. The people is basically what makes home for you. And I think throughout this podcast, let's hold on to that thought. And I would be keen to get your opinion on basically what it was like through the different phases, through the different ages of Saurabh in different cities. and the people that basically made you feel at home away from home, right? So I think let's start back with your journey when you were about 10 years old and you left India with your parents. And a lot of us listening to this podcast would have gone through the same journey. We probably migrated to a new city, new country with our parents. So it's a lot going on as a 10-year-old. All of a sudden you're in a place with a new language, new culture, new people. What was that experience like, as a 10-year-old moving to Toronto?
To be honest, it was shock, traumatic, like it was just unreal. It was obviously amazing, but for a 10-year-old Saurabh, like I actually didn't even know what Canada was, right? I had not heard of the country itself. Like, my dad came home one evening and just kind of told me that, oh, we'd be moving to Canada. And I took it very with a grain of salt. Like I took it so lightly. I didn't really understand what's actually happening. Like, to be honest, like I thought, yeah, I'm going to Canada, but it's like me going to Agra or me going to Mumbai. I'm going to go for a bit and then come back. So I really didn't factor in the distance between India and Canada. And like, this is kind of like a one-way sort of trip, and it's not going to be that easy to come back to India all the time. And even then, like I said, like, people were a big part of my life. Even when I was 10 years old, like I had a very, very close friend in India. His name is Suyash, and he's still a really great friend of mine. And it was like incredibly hard to leave him behind, right? I remember he, a 10-year-old Suyash came to drop me off at the airport, right? Like it was incredible. And like, and I think he was like crying and like I was tearing up. And that's when it really hit me that I'm actually leaving the country, right? It was kind of very like shocking. But then the moment I landed the Canadian airport, it's a very stereotypical Indian thing. Like, like we travel in like groups, and like when we came in, we had a warm welcome. So my entire dad's side is, based in Canada, and you've met quite a lot of them. And there were about, I think, at least 20 to 30 people who were there to welcome us at the airport. Like we walked in, like the entire family kind of, came out of the airport, and we had like 30 of these Agrawals waiting to greet us. And all of them took us to, this one house where there was this big kind of like house party. There was Rajma Chawal and everything. And I think, again, because the people were there, I quickly forgot that I just left India. And like we were
Wow.
talking in Hindi still, everything felt so normal. We were talking, sharing experiences. We were talking about like how the flight was. People were asking me, "Oh, what do you think of Canada?" And I'm still digesting. Like I'm like looking at the houses. I'm like, "Oh my God, these are the houses that I used to see on Cartoon Network." Like, the shape of the houses were very
Yeah.
different from how they were in India. So when I kind of came in and I'm like just looking at everything, and the air feels funny and air feels different. And and we came like, it was still pretty chilly. Like I think we came around we didn't come in winter, we came in June, so it was still summer
Yeah.
vacation. But the day we came, it was still a little like cold for some reason, right? It wasn't as hot. And it was, the jet lag was hitting me and everything. So the first night in Canada was very different. But it was really nice because I felt home still, because I left India, I left my home, I left my people, but then I came in and I felt such a warm welcome that I quickly forgot that, I've just left India and
Yeah.
I've left the home, because I was welcomed into another home. And then slowly how that journey and like, that transitioned into like what home became in Toronto, right? And then slowly my dad moved in, and like, he found his place, he found his foot in the water, and he started making a living out here. And again, like, when I started going to school, a couple of things that started changing is like, yeah, like, I started enjoying the music here. I started enjoying the food. Like I remember the first time I tried pasta, for example, or first time I tried like sushi or olives. I mean, these are things I love them now, but at that time, it was very different. Like cheese felt
Yeah.
very different, pizza felt very different, right? And slowly, how that transition became from like I don't like this to loving it. Like I remember, like going to school and telling my aunt to don't pack me grilled cheese sandwiches and baked beans, because that's what she would think to assimilate and not to feel like, out of place. She would give me like baked beans and grilled cheese sandwiches, but like I was all about like give me bhindi or give me aloo, because that's what I was used to, right? And
Yeah.
it took me a while to really understand the food here, the music here, the culture here, the
Mm.
movies, and then how I slowly, kind of became part of this culture. I didn't even realize it. And like again, like it slowly, this became my country, right? Canada
Yeah.
became the country that I associate more. And like today, like, do I love India? Yes, I love India, but do I associate myself the same way? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
Because what in Canada I have is like, I have my Tim Hortons, like, I enjoy my sports here, I enjoy my drinks here, I enjoy my food here, right? Like I know the places, I know the people. And that was a huge factor on how the people and then the culture and the food and the drink slowly also gravitated and made this home for me.
Oh, that's amazing. So, how long did you think that process took you? So, is that a couple of years? Was it a couple of months where you were,
No,
you
it's
know?
funny, like, I mean, it sounds like it took me a long time, but it wasn't. It wasn't long at
Yeah.
all. It was like maybe 2 weeks at most, right? Like I
Wow.
said, family's already here, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
seeing a lot
I
of
mean, that's a
familiar
massive help.
faces. That was a massive help, right? So it wasn't so difficult. And like, for the even like living at my family's house felt even more special and it felt more warm than, eventually when we moved into our own place. I remember when I was moving into within Canada, within Toronto, I was moving for the first time with, I think it was after the 6 months, we finally got a place of ourselves. And when I moved out of our family house to like this, place with my mom, dad, and my sister, even that was a little bit difficult because I started getting attached to the my uncle that I was living with and, all my cousins and stuff. So it was a bit of a difficult transition to go from there to that as well. Like, but then again, once we had our own place, we kind of like followed a lot of the traditions that we learned from that family, right? For example, Friday nights being pizza night. That's something that,
Yeah.
my uncle's house, it was very common and we started doing it here. Taco Tuesdays, we started making Tuesdays on tacos on Tuesdays, or pastas on Wednesdays, or like, Christmas. Every Christmas became like this big
Yeah.
large affair of like families and gifting and all of those things. So those type of things kind of really changed. And like, the next 14, 15 years that I was, in Canada were very special, right? Because
Yeah.
I really made Canada my country. I started getting involved in so many things. And again, I was very, because Canada is such a diverse country itself, I also was really involved with a lot of the activities that are happening within the community and stuff. I was still very attached to Bollywood, like, so every time there would be like Bollywood events, I would find my ways to like how to attach myself with that. And like, how can I participate more in these type of things. I started writing for newspapers. So really made Canada my home and like, really assimilated myself within the culture of Canadian, diaspora.
No, I mean, that's amazing to hear. And I know you mentioned Bollywood just there. So, would you say that Bollywood was that connection to India that basically kept the Indian part of, things alive, as well as while you were immersing yourself in the Canadian culture? Was
Yeah, I
Bollywood that
mean,
one big thing that sort of kept you close to India?
Bollywood was definitely Bollywood and food, I think, both of the things, right? Like Bollywood and food, both were two things that, we were still very much made us feel Indian, right?
Yeah.
Like even till the and to be honest,
Yeah.
that stayed constant throughout the journey. Like you've seen me, like, be it me in, when I was in UK or when I'm in Canada, I'm a huge foodie, right? Like I love making food, and specifically I love Indian food.
Yeah.
And I love watching Indian movies or Indian TV shows. So that sort of thing stayed constant, like,
Yeah.
and yeah, 100% I agree. Like that is one of the anchors that kind of kept me Indian till date.
In terms of food, what was your one dish that, you had to have to feel at home or just comfortable, or this is your go-to
I
absolute
mean,
favorite?
this better than I know. Dal makhani
Yeah.
was like
But
the go-to.
was that always the case, or
I think so.
it was something else
I
initially
think
and
dal
then
makhani or like rajma chawal, like those two
yeah.
things have always been constant. Like rajma chawal is obviously more of something that, would be at home, right? Like in
Yeah,
order
yeah,
for me
it's
to like
proper
like a
comfort food.
home food, yeah, comfort
Yeah.
food. But rajma chawal
Yeah,
has to
yeah.
be like a home cooked version, right? Like I'm not gonna go outside and try rajma chawal to feel home. It has to be a very specifically like, mom's rajma chawal that makes you feel like, oh yes, this is home, right? Or something that you made at home. But yeah, like dal makhani would be one thing that I could go anywhere, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I would like instantly feel at home, or instantly feel comforted, or instantly feel so amazing, right? And no matter where I am in this world, like I will always make, a extra effort to go and try dal makhni at that specific location, right? For
Of
me,
course,
that's
yeah.
like
I
a
mean,
very
it's
one of the
something that
big
brings
things.
us closer to our home, I guess, no matter where we are.
Yeah, exactly.
And music, I guess, I mean, I know you, so I know you, Bollywood is a big part of your life. If you had to pick a song that sort of defines you, you maybe your early memories of Toronto, what were the songs you were listening to at that age,
Oh my
or
God, that's
even
a
much older
very,
when you were in university? What was that one song or an artist that you absolutely love
like,
listening to?
it's crazy. I mean, there's been so many different artists that, I've kind of grown up on and everything, but it's funny. I mean, it's very hard to like pinpoint one, but like the one, like I've always been a huge ghazal listener as well. And Pankaj Udas was like one of the one big ones because my father used to listen to Pankaj
Yeah.
Udas quite a lot as well. So like Chitti Aiye used to be one of the big ones that, growing up, used to really make you feel close to home as well. And like, I
That's a
remember
very heavy song as well. That's
very heavy song, and used to play in the radios here, and like sometimes people would like call back and say, oh, we miss India because of this song. So that used to be a really amazing song that I would like really go back to, or like in general, a lot of Pankaj Udas ghazals and stuff I used to listen to quite a lot growing up. And then slowly, I mean, it changed, and like the movies and things like that, like Sonu Nigam, I would go back to so many times on, and like like rock star songs were like very big while growing up, right? So like a lot of these tracks and stuff obviously hold a huge place, but it's very hard to pinpoint one specific song because again, you and I both know that we listen to music religiously, and specifically Bollywood music, right? Like we listen, like we know Bollywood really well. So to really pinpoint one specific song that can like highlight the specific, like when I first moved to Canada, would be very hard because majority of my life has been in Canada, right? Regardless of the fact that I've traveled few times back and forth, and for my work and career and education. But having said that, like majority of my life has been in Canada.
so once you found your footing in Canada, right? What what was the trigger for you to then say, actually, I want to go overseas. I want to go to the UK. I want to go to Birmingham, study
I
law.
think it
What
was
was
kind of
that
like
thought
a
process like?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like a coming of the age moment for me. Like, at that time, a lot of these movies were coming out, like Lakshya and like Wake Up Sid and like, Rockstar, and like, really trying to find like where you belong. And I think I was all about like specifically Ye Jawani and Diwani, right? Like I associate myself a lot with like the character of Bunny in that movie. So I think at that stage, like I was all about like, look, I really want to experience living abroad. I want to like learn how to like kind of manage things on my own, and that's kind of the mindset I went with. And it's funny because I think I realized how many people I've influenced because it was a big thing for me at that time, leaving Toronto and going to UK for education, right? Like our parents have done that, like, leaving India and, pursuing career or educations abroad. But once, like, our parents came to Canada for the reason of, us having a better education. And then, like, at that time, it was very unorthodox to kind of like leave Canada to go to pursue education, right? And I wanted to kind of look at I looked at it as an opportunity to kind of like understand the world the way that I want to understand it, but also really get that experience abroad. And also, like I realized that doing law in UK would have been an easier route, and like it would have made things much more efficient for me. And then yeah, to be honest, like I mean, when I think I sat on that in the in the car, I literally thought I was Hrithik Roshan from Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum. Gonna go and explore London, and I used to like land in London and like listen to Vande
Yeah.
Mataram and like be around Piccadilly Circus, or like or be in Birmingham Broad Street and like
Yeah, we were all
enjoy.
definitely misled there by Karan Johar and his team. It's not like
Yeah,
that, is
I
it?
think it's really shaped our lives and like really influenced the
Yeah.
way that we kind of think. But yeah, of course. So I think that was my kind of mindset. And it's funny, a lot of my cousins, I think they tell me now that they were very heavily influenced, and they thought it was very cool that I went to do law in UK. And a lot of my cousins now are pursuing education in UK or other areas, or like Scotland and things like that. And some of them are enjoying it, but some of them are also like, oh, it's really difficult. How did you do it? And I think what I tell them, it's the mindset, right? Like my mindset was that, look, I want to figure things out by myself. Like I remember telling my parents that I'm going, but you don't need to come with me to settle me down there. Right? It was like a very Indian thing to do. To they're obviously worried about you. They're like, the first time, you're going to UK, you're going to come back during your breaks and things like that. It's a 3-year long program. We would like to help you, find a place, open up a bank account, and things like this. And I was like, no, this is exactly why I'm going. Like, I want to be able to figure out how to open up a bank account by myself.
Yeah.
I want to be able to figure out, like, how to like get like a cell phone plan or like things like that. I want to be able to put my name out there and be, even though I know like I'm taking a loan and like I have help from home, but I wanted to be the one who's kind of figuring things out, right?
Yeah, it's
I
interesting
wanted,
that you mentioned that admin side because
yeah,
obviously when you look at the films and you think about the glamour of, going to a new city, they never talk about the admin, right? So it's like you still have to go through that. And sometimes,
yeah.
admin can be very difficult depending on the place you pick.
It's funny you mentioned this because I remember like again like watching Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum and like Hrithik Roshan coming in like this Lambo or Ferrari and like he has the car and everything. You're like, he just came from India. How did he just pick up a car like this, right? And I kid you not, I was in UK first year and I looked into seeing if I can get a motorcycle because I thought it would be the coolest thing to be able to do, right? And I was so close. And then funny enough, I had a classmate who also came from Canada. He actually had a motorcycle too, and I was like this is crazy, right? Like, and I was like, and I mean I did end up doing it then because I mean that we both ride in, you were riding in New Zealand and I was riding in Canada, so that was something I really wanted to do, but it was just an expensive hobby and I just didn't see that financially it made sense for me to get it
Yeah.
while I'm studying. But it was something, like I would have loved it if I had the opportunity to be able to do that. But yeah, it's funny. Yeah, like the admin side definitely is there that obviously these movies don't show you, but you have to be ready for it when you're like,
Yeah.
when you're deciding to pursue something in life or you want to move countries or you want to see that you want a better life for yourself because things are not just going to fall on your lap. Like you will have to work hard. And that's one of the key experiences that I have, that it might sound or it might look phenomenal on Instagram that this person is, studying abroad and every weekend looks like he's in this beautiful landscape and like they're traveling and all of these things. But reality has it that there's a lot that goes in order to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you mentioned that when you moved from India to Toronto, you had people.
Yeah.
But when you did the same thing from, Toronto to Birmingham, obviously you didn't know a lot of people there. How did you cope with that? And how did you then create a home for yourself away from
Again,
home?
yeah, no, good that you bring it up. I remember actually messaging you too, and I know at that time there was you had some inkling of eventually coming to UK, and I said, look, I'm doing law school. You should come that time, but unfortunately at that time, things didn't line up, and you weren't able to come, and you came later. But when I was there again, like people and individuals was a huge part of me, and believe it or not, I kind of set um, I set the seeds on how I'm gonna have that before I left. So one of the things I had done is I used to, at that time Facebook was huge and Facebook groups was a big part of, your normal routine things that you would do. So I would constantly be like checking out, different student groups and like, housing groups, who's in it and who can I message. And I ended up messaging a guy, his name is Hemant. And again, a very dear friend till this day. Uh, I messaged him saying, hey, look, I'm interested, yeah, I'm coming for my law school there and I'm interested in getting this place. I see that you've already have a place or apartment in this building. Can you just quickly show me how this place looks because I want to put a deposit and I want to, also book this place. And he said, yeah, no problem. And he, literally called me. I think he FaceTimed me at that time. FaceTime was there and he showed me the place and I said, okay, yeah, this is good. And I ended up booking that place. And the day I landed, that same night, I remember my dad's friend picked me up, dropped me to the my residence, and then they left. And then I'm like, oh my god, I'm all by myself. I'm hungry. I don't know what to do. And I called Hemant up, and Hemant said, I'll come up in 2 minutes. And he was literally one floor below me. And he came up and he said, hey, don't worry, I got you. And he helped me set up my entire flat that day. And he took me out for lunch. And again, like right away, like I had a connection there, right?
Wow, that's
I
amazing.
became friends with him. Me and him, like, till this day, we are very close. Um, And yeah, like he helped me create Birmingham, the home that is, right? And there's a lot more stories as well. Like another family of mine, my dad's cousin sister lives in Milton Keynes. 1 week after, she came down and she said, hey, like let me help you out, and if you will go out and we'll explore Birmingham. She took me out, and then after we were done, she took me back to her place. I spent the weekend there, which made me feel really good because in the morning I'm having like aloo ke parathe and things like that. I'm having like lassi, so I'm having like the food and the drink that makes me feel home, right?
Yeah.
And because that happened that way, it became again really easy, right? um and then again, like last time I took you to Birmingham, you remember there was this uncle from the restaurant Millen. He's
Yeah.
also very part of my, very closely associated with my Birmingham journey, and it's really funny sort of thing how me and him connected. Parminder uncle, I called him up saying, look, I'm missing home, can you cook me something, and can you cook me dal makhani? That's what I said. And then he said, yeah, sure. But then I asked him, I'm like, no, no, but I want North Indian dal makhani, because Birmingham is infamous to known as, like, there's a lot of Indian restaurants, but they're actually Bengali
Yeah.
based restaurants
Yeah.
with Indian names. So it's very hard to tell. So I said, no, look, I really am looking for a North Indian style dal makhani. And he's like, no, don't worry. I used to work at Taj Hotel in India. I'll make you a really nice dal
Nice.
makhani. And I remember he wanted to hand deliver that dal makhani because he was really curious to know who's this individual who's asked for this North Indian style dal
Specific
makhani.
dal makhani.
Yeah, and he dropped it, and then since then he was extremely close to me. Like, one of the days, like I feel like I was sick, and he just randomly called me saying, "Hey, Saurabh, what would you like?" And I said, "Oh, I'm feeling sick." And then he dropped like khichdi for me, or like, during Diwali time, I remember he sent sweets for me. So stuff like that, like, really helped me feel Birmingham was home.
That's
I
amazing that you
enjoyed, like, I
managed.
enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that you managed to then again connect with people and sometimes so quickly as well. And
Yeah,
I think for our listeners, that I'm sure there's people out there who are maybe considering a move but are scared because they don't know anybody in a city they might be moving to. And I think that's a great example of, if you're proactive and you are also willing to just put the energy out there, then you will make some connections that will obviously help you, future whenever you are there. So I think it comes to you as well as a person where you're willing to sort of put in the effort, put in the energy out there. And if you're passionate about something, then you have to go for it. And that's an amazing example of obviously how you reached out to him, and then obviously you made more people along the way. And I think obviously because I've known you for so many years, it's the energy that you are putting out there. I think people are also very happy to then be around that energy. So I think it's a great example. Obviously, you decided to move, you took a decision, and then you basically followed up with the right level of energy and initiative. I think that's a great story, to be honest.
yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, and you live through these memories, like all of them, like, be it Hemant, or be it my family in Milton Keynes, or, growing out through these years, like, we'll often, talk about these things, and we'll go back and revisit them. And it makes you feel that you had such a, golden time of your life in these countries, because these countries had so much to offer to you, than you had to offer to them, right? Like, they gave you so much. I am who I am because of my time there. A lot of my other friends too, like, one of my other friends, Divi as well, like, till this day he says that, like, his first birthday was in Birmingham. And I called him up, said to him, like, it's your birthday, what are you doing? And he said, oh, there's not much I have planned. I said, why don't you come over? And for him, for example, like, and I mean, you often speak about, like, music, food, and drinks. How do you connect? And for him, like, he till this day he says, I will never forget that one drink that I had at your apartment till like 2 a.m. We finished a bottle of JD, and we had, music, and we were just having a really good ball of a time. And he says that was one of my most memorable birthdays of my life, because for him, he says that, like, at that time, you know it didn't really require too many people. It just required him to come over to my place, and us to play really nice music, and have, finish a bottle of JD, and having a really great time together. So yeah, like, in addition to people, it definitely is, there's these three things that you should always have in mind, which is, the music, the food, and the drinks, right? Like, these things make you feel home. Like, for example, Canada, Tim Hortons is a big part of my life, right? In UK, it could be like Pret, right? Like, at the Pret, like, I love the mozzarella and cheese
Yeah.
croissant. that I'm always craving and things like that. So like it really connects with me, right? Or like, having a Pret coffee or something like that, or Pret chai tea or something along those lines really brings you back. So like, so those three things are definitely a huge part in addition to people, which, kind of help you make that country home.
Yeah. And before we wrap up the Birmingham chapter, what is like maybe a song that whenever you hear it, it takes you back to your, uni days in Birmingham? Do you have a song or
For Birmingham, it always was, and I shared this with Divi as well. It used to be the song. I think it is called Tanhai by Shan, right? Is it called Tanhai?
yeah, yeah.
Shan?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the
the
old that
classic.
song was "Aankhon mein sapne liye ghar
Yeah,
se hum chal to diye."
Tanha Dil.
Tanha Dil, sorry, not Tanhai.
Yeah.
Tanha Dil. That song was, I think, one of the most replayed songs throughout my journey in Birmingham, because I think like my mindset was exactly what that
Yeah.
song was, right? Like, a lot of dreams, a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish, and looking around, seeing everybody else also running this race. I want to be part of this race, and I really want to make something out of my life at that time. So that song Tanha Dil was a huge, like a very memorable song that used to be replayed. And I remember, like, I had like my earpods on, and like I would be walking down the streets of Birmingham, or the Christmas market, and I'd be like listening to it, and
Yeah.
just like gazing, and be like, one day, I'm gonna be back in this city with maybe my loved one, maybe my kids and stuff, and like show them
Yeah.
this is, these are the city, that your dad studied in, or this is where your husband, like, spent a good chunk of his life going through all of these different memories and adventures.
Amazing, amazing. And then, so when you finally finished your chapter in Birmingham and moved back to Toronto, what was that like then? Did you find yourself that you had changed as a person? Did things
Yeah,
feel very different to you, or what was that experience like?
it was. I think that transition was a little bit difficult, because coming back from Birmingham to Toronto, I really felt like I knew the world, right? Like I was a lot more confident. I have a degree now. I wanted to like pursue work. I wanted to work for like a really nice law firm in Toronto. And like that was my, aspiration and dreams. And like, I was all about like trying to cook by myself. I remember I used to have this Instapot when I was in Birmingham. When I came back, I ordered another Instapot, and I told my parents, I'm like, no, look, I'm going to cook. And then it kind of fizzled out very quickly, because then you're in the comfort of the home, and your parents are
Yeah.
there. They want to cook for you, they want to spoil you and things like that. So I was here for not too long, actually. When I came back, I think it was just a span of maybe 8 to 10 months when I moved back. I remember, like, I picked up a article type of position, which is kind of like learning how to practice in law, and I was doing my conversion exams at a law firm called the VLG Law Office. And I was just kind of doing, small odd things here and there, just kind of learning the trade of how to practice law in Toronto, specifically real estate law. And then while I was doing that, like, I was also all about traveling. And then I reached out to you at that time, and I said, look, let's do our trip or something. And yeah, I mean, we used to often, like, within 3 or 4 years, we would always plan one trip, like, be it US, be it India, we'd do some sort of trip together. So then I think I reached out to you and said, hey, like, let's do a trip together. And you said, you wanted to do it. And I think at that time, it was just, it had been a couple of, maybe like a month or so or maybe 2 months that you just moved to UK yourself. And at that time, I think, like, I reached out to you, and then Levi said, let's go to Iceland. And then we had this really amazing journey in Iceland, and you randomly put it out in the universe saying, hey, it'd be really amazing for you to come back to UK. And just then Hemant called me saying that, look, I remember we were just
Yeah.
literally driving, and then Hemant called said, I might have a job for you in London. Are you interested? And I said, yes, I am. And I think while I was there, I messaged him with my email and password, and like he logged in from my username, and he emailed my resume to his organization to see if he can secure me the job. And after that, like, I had a interview call, and the next thing I knew was that I was preparing to go back to UK for work now. So I finished my
Yeah.
schooling, and I was going to go back to work. So yeah, like, I think my time back from Birmingham to Toronto was very little. So it was very like, to be honest, for me, I don't even consider that like a thing. It was more like a visit rather than like really feeling I was part of the country again, because it was so short. I was just kind of like picking things up and like seeing where I want to go with my life. And just then I had an opportunity of taking, work in London. And I just kind of jumped on that opportunity and I went back to UK. So it was really quick. So yeah, it's very hard for me to tell you like how was it from law school to Toronto, because
Toronto.
that journey was very small.
I mean, you touched upon this moment of, we were in Iceland and this opportunity came through. But before that, as you said, we were just talking about it, right? We were literally manifesting that, oh man, it'll be amazing if you could, get something in London. And I mean, we'll both
Yeah,
be based in London. And I think that's probably one of those moments where, the power of manifestation is actually true.
yeah,
It happens. You put things out there in the universe, and one way or the other,
it makes it happen. Yeah.
it finds a way to sort of materialize. And from there on, yeah, I'm just amazed how quickly things happened. And you were in London, you were back in UK again.
Yeah, I think it was we went to Iceland, I think in like March, and in a month I was in UK. Like I think it was like it wasn't even a full month yet. I think we went to Iceland like March. We finished the trip maybe like March 12th or something like that, March 11th
Yeah,
or
I think
12th,
you
and then
were April or May. You were in UK already
yeah,
within
and
Europe.
April or May
Yeah,
I was back in UK. So barely even a month after Iceland, I was back in London, and honestly, I think out of all my decisions, that decision was by far one of my best decisions in life, because I think I had the most amazing experience working in London, and
yeah,
like, just enjoying London and like really feeling that I'm part of that. I'm part of London. And, like there's so much that London has given me. I think more than even my Birmingham, I really, really cherish my time in London, because I really felt deeply connected to that city.
yeah. And I think London as well, your transition was probably a bit easier because you already knew friends from, obviously, I was there.
Yeah.
You knew friends from your, Birmingham
Uni
days as
days.
well. And obviously, the access to the rest of the world that London offers you is incredible. Like, we ended up, I think, doing about 8 or 9 trips to Europe
Yeah.
throughout your time you were there.
We did eight,
But
nine
also
trips
the
to Europe.
city
Then we also
itself.
did abroad as well. We went to Dubai
Yeah,
as well and things
Dubai
like
as
that. So
well,
yeah,
exactly. And I remember, like, when you were settling into your place in London, you were very clear with what you wanted in the house and how you wanted to set it up.
yeah,
And obviously, you wanted a place where you could cook your dal makhni regularly. You were big on drinking chai that time, so your morning ritual was making
yeah.
a cup of chai every morning. And I think you
I
got really good at it as well.
Yeah, I think that's why. I think so as well. I think that's why I think I enjoyed London so much more than any other, my other transitions, because I think not only was it because of the people, but I really knew what I wanted when I was there. One, I was very specific on the locality where I want my home to be, because London was already so busy. I wanted to be a little bit more in the suburbs. So the place I found was Canning Town, and within the Canning Town, it was in a specific apartment building where mostly, housed very young families, right?
Yeah,
So
that was a great spot.
the environment around that area was very, very suburban, very quiet, very family. So it didn't feel like you were in London at all, because the city of the London is really, fast paced, very hustle bustle, and like things are moving really quickly. So it kind of really gave me kind of like in Hindi what you say ठहराव, right? Like it gave me the ठहराव in that place.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. And then, like I said, like you said, there was a ritual that I had, right? Like in the morning, making chai. I was extremely disciplined at that time as well. I used to be all about like working out, eating healthy, staying away
Yeah.
from gluten. Drinking like chai was a huge part. Like I would love having people over, and I'd offer to make them chai. And when you would even come over, like it was not about just giving you chai. It was also about like having chai with like those little snacks and things like that, to just like really feel like you're in a home. And I remember you saying a couple of times like, oh, when I come to your place, it doesn't feel like I've come to like a bachelor pad or like a
Yeah,
single.
it wasn't like a student bachelor pad. It felt like a very homely.
Yeah, it was home.
Yeah.
And I lived like, and I treated that place like home. I kept it extremely clean. I was all about like making food, and I would watch TV on it, and like I would have the sofa and everything. So it used to feel really, really home. I had put paintings up and things and like that, and like whatever
Yeah.
connected with me, and I really decorated the place to something that I wanted it to be decorated. So it really felt like home to me as well. And I was very, very happy. It's one of the things I miss a lot because I lived by myself there, and I loved having people over. And again, that's one of the things that made me feel really good as well when people would come over. So you would come over all the time, or like other people would come all the time, and I'd make them chai, or we'd do like pizza night, or we'd do like dinners and things like that. So it used to be fun. And every weekend, you and I would pick a place, and we would just travel and like
Yeah.
enjoy whatever Europe had to offer us, right? So, and every time we would travel, like we'd have music, and I'd make playlists and things like that. So it's to really be a lot of fun.
Is there a song that reminds you of your London days, or songs, or a couple
I
of
think
songs that?
London was a lot about Ilahi then. I think when
Yeah.
the next time I went to London for work, that's when I really, I think, connected with Ye Jawani and Diwani, and really connect with Bunny, and Ilahi was one of the main songs that I used to listen all the time. But then in addition to that my entire time when I was working, there were a lot of songs. One of the things that I used to love doing was creating playlists, right? And every time we would travel to a new country, I would create a playlist. And one of the things you and I used to do a lot is we used to explore the countries on foot, right? We would try the food. We would have drinks there together. Be it a night in Riga where we're having a drink together and things like that. So all those places, by exploring the country on foot and having a very small budget. So we were really just there to explore it, right? We were staying in hostels, we were staying in
Yeah.
like cheap accommodations, but we were really just soaking the city. Like we it was not about like what we want to see, how much we want to see. We just wanted to enjoy the city for that day, for
Yeah.
that weekend. And we would just deeply just let ourselves be. Like you and I would be sitting in a park, or enjoying the park, and we're just exploring the park and like going crazy about that. We were in Poland, and we were like looking at all these gnomes that are scattered
Yeah.
in Wrocław, and we were like looking at that. And then again, right, like I would create these playlists, and music has this amazing quality of being kind of like a time machine. It like
Yeah.
takes you back. So even
That's so
today,
true.
like I'll be driving, and a music will play, and I'd be like, oh my god, this is Switzerland, right? Or like like Chan Ketha would play, and I'd be like, oh my god, we're in Iceland now, right? It
Iceland.
would
Yeah.
just magically take me back to those places. Like it would be just incredible, the power that music has to take you back in those places, and make you relive those experiences again, right? And have those stories and things like that. So I think that's one of the things that's beautiful about music, and that's one of the reasons I think I really started enjoying creating playlists, specifically when we used to travel so much. Until this day, I have all those playlists saved, and like sometimes when I'm driving alone and I'm missing Switzerland, I'll just play that Switzerland playlist, right? And like you'll
Yeah.
have like so much of the DDLJ playing in the background, and it'll remind me of our drives in in Switzerland, and like or just feel what we felt in Switzerland. So those are the things that I think these small things I think everybody should do. Like take note of small things when you're traveling, or calling a country home. Like really enjoy the food, really sip on that drink, and really cherish the music that you're listening to, because when you go back, and for whatever reason that small, like you might not be drinking the same drink, but you might have that same flavor come back to you,
Yeah.
right?
That's true.
Even fragrance, like one of the things I remember
Fragrance is a
also,
big one as well. Yes.
fragrance is a big one as well, because our fragrances change over time as well. So I remember, like for example, Burberry London used to be a fragrance I used to wear in London all the time. And till now, if I ever put Burberry London again, it makes me remember my time in London. Or like Sauvage, I remember when we were like, I think it was Dubai, I think we picked it up from or something, and we bought a bottle of Sauvage. And then every time I smell that fragrance again, takes me back to that same place again. So there's these small things that you should really pay attention to when you're traveling or like visiting a new country, because it's really what makes you feel like you've experienced the country.
Exactly. Exactly. And there will be a lot of people in Toronto right now that are potentially thinking of moving to London.
Yeah.
So What would you want to tell them? Any tips for them or anything
Well,
that could help them out?
I mean, it depends what's the purpose, right? If the purpose is to study, then go with that mindset, right? Like if the purpose is to just enjoy, if the purpose is to work, then just have a very clear understanding of what your purpose of travel is. And whatever the purpose of that travel is, don't forget that. Like I was telling this to somebody very recently who's telling me, they went to London for education. I said, if I didn't have if I was in a relationship, for example, and I went to London, it would have been very difficult because I'm kind of living two places at once. I'm not giving full justice to that one country because half of my mind is still in another country because I have to, always remember to like call this person, be available for this person. So like that, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, not saying that long distances cannot happen, but it will make it more difficult for you to travel, for
Yeah,
you to like
you won't be able to
really.
fully indulge in that place.
Exactly. So you
You'll
have,
still have some part of it in the other place.
yeah, so you really have to let go. Like when you leave a place, you really have to let go, right? Like you have to let go of everything and you have to really embrace that new country with full, optimism and like full like love and care because only then that country will offer you completely itself to you, right? So you really have to be there in order to get that, right? So that's one
And I
what.
feel like you have to put that energy out, coming back to how you put that energy out in Birmingham. When we were in London, we were also consciously making effort to go see a new place in the world. Sometimes it was a city that we had never heard of before, right? We
Yeah,
didn't know what was going to be there.
yeah,
And I think every time we did that, we were just pleasantly surprised because, we had never heard of this place. We didn't know what it looked like. We didn't know what the food was like. We didn't know what the people were like. And we ended up meeting some of the nicest people in cities that, we didn't know much about. And we just came back with a little bit of that city in us, which from time to time, as you said, if you listen to a song or a fragrance or sometimes food,
yeah,
Christmas markets, for example, sometimes they have a lot of European food
yeah,
and you might eat something and you remember, "Oh, actually, I've had this in Prague or I've had this in Budapest, I've had this
yeah,
in Riga or, something like that."
yeah.
So I think the energy you put out there is a really big one.
Yeah, no, 100%. I forgot even in Budapest, man, there's this, I think it's called Laos. Have you had it? It's Budapest. There's this specific dish very known. And I remember recently, I didn't think I'd recreate it as well because basically it's like, it literally is like our Indian bhatura with sour cream and cheese
I've
on
had
it.
it. I've had this.
It's
I've
so
I've
yummy.
had this. Yeah, yeah, I've had this. And sometimes I
And
think they put potatoes as well in it.
and potatoes in it as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've
Exactly.
had this. I've had this.
I think it started with L. I forgot the name. It's a really yummy dish. But I remember, very recently I just had chole bhature and I just had bhature by itself with yogurt. It literally took me back to Budapest. And that's exactly what I mean, right? Like the food, like really enjoying that food, that moment is so important because a bhatura is not the same thing. It's not even close. Like, I mean, it resembles it, but it's not the same thing. But a bhatura can still bring me back to Budapest. Like that's the connection of food, right? Like that's the power of food.
Exactly.
Like really, that's why I think the three anchors that you Karan always talk about while traveling is very very important because yeah, these three things have the power to like take you back and really make that country or that place home.
No, definitely. And I think just to wrap up your journey now, so you've spent time in London, you've traveled all these places, and then you've decided actually it's the perfect time for me now to move back to Toronto to
Yeah,
settle and to sort of launch from the foundation you had in Birmingham and London. So that last move, I think when you moved back to Toronto, what was the initial phase like? Did you find it, yep, this is my place, I'm ready to embrace it, or did you struggle initially because obviously Toronto, London, both great cities but are quite different in day-to-day life, what they offer. How was that experience like for you?
well, I mean, one, COVID had a lot to play in it, right? Because it was kind of like not it was kind of like not our choice. All of a sudden the city was gonna be on a lockdown. Everybody was like, we need to go back home. I was kind of in the same boat because I didn't know how things are gonna move. Luckily, I was in a right place, right time. Like my company offered remote options. They said, yes, you can go back. You can continue working for our company throughout COVID. So throughout COVID, I still worked for Barbary, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But that was my initial reason why I moved back. And I remember, like, having that walk with you and Vishal, which is one of our other friends, and just, telling you guys that I think I'm going to go back because COVID is happening. And I think both of you guys were in disbelief. You're like, no, this is probably not going to happen. And
Especially me.
yeah,
I just
especially
could
you, because I
not.
think it was a big
I
thing for you too.
Yeah, I didn't take COVID seriously at the start. I just thought it's gonna blow over, a couple of weeks, whatever. I just did
Yeah.
not expect, how things
Like
happened.
a year, 2 years lockdown. So that was the reason I initially moved back. And I think slowly, I don't know if I really accepted it right away, but then slowly it started like fitting in. Like, I started like realizing, what, this is the best place for me to really settle down. One, because London was extremely busy. And I always felt, and I've told you this many times as well, that while I love London, I don't think it's a place that I would like to start a family there, right? Because I just think it's really busy. And the type of individual I am, I enjoy very suburban lifestyle. Like, I'm not all about city lifestyle, which is what London really offers, right? I'm a lot more about like the suburban lifestyle. I like the little bit of a quietness. Toronto, while Toronto is not really like that, but Toronto GTA, the Greater Toronto area, has a lot of pockets, which is quite relaxed when it comes to these type of things. And the houses are bigger here, the roads are bigger here, the healthcare is amazing here. Everything feels open. You don't feel boxed in so much. You don't really rely on public transports here. Whereas in London, public transports are the best way to travel. Over here, you cannot even imagine traveling without a car. The weather is extreme here, but you don't feel when you're sitting inside a house, that the weather is this extreme. It might be minus 30 degrees outside, but inside you're going to be wearing a t-shirt because it's centralized and everything. And these are the things I used to miss in UK. Like, while UK is great, but they still haven't mastered a central heating technology yet. Like, not every place has it, things like that. Like the healthcare, I think, is still kind of getting there and things like that. So those are the things that I think I really, when I distinguished both of the places, I said I really want to settle down in Canada. And then also a huge factor was that, obviously, my love of my life was based in Canada as well, and she was not interested in moving either. So, her family's all here, my family's all here. And then, like I said, this is a great way to kind of bring it back. Home is where people are at, right? And that's where
Yeah,
I started this podcast with. My entire family's here. My entire wife's family is here. We have a huge extended family here, so it only made sense to be around the people who love you so much. And that's where I wanted to settle down as well. And I think more than anything else, that's what really kind of hit home for me. And that's what I realized, that eventually I want to call Canada my home. Because, to be quite honest, I think Canada was always home. India was originally where I was born, but I was so young when I moved to Canada. Regardless if I accepted it or not, but Canada was always my home, right? It was just, once I explored all my different places and countries, and we went to Dubai, and I remember you and I talking about what if Dubai was home and things like that. But eventually, what I realized was home is where your
yeah,
people are, and my people
yeah.
were all in Canada. So I think Canada was naturally the place that I wanted to make my home. And yeah, and I'm very happy. I'm blessed that I have a beautiful daughter now,
That's
and
amazing.
I have a beautiful wife, and I'm happy in Canada, and I love that Canada is my home.
Oh, that's honestly such a beautiful, as I said, it's the full circle. You're one
Yeah,
of those people who left home a few times and you've come back and now you're excelling. You've got a beautiful family, a great career, and it's, a lot of our
yeah,
listeners who are potentially thinking of, moving. It's a good lesson for them that, you can always come back once you've traveled and you've gained whatever you need to gain. And you might see your hometown in a very new light, in a different perspective after gaining experience from whatever part you want to go at. So I think it's amazing. And
yeah.
I think, Saurabh, this podcast is getting a bit long. So before I let you go, I want to finish off with a bit of a fun. I've got some questions prepared here for rapid fire.
Oh,
So
sick.
just
Okay.
the first thing that comes to your mind, just say it. Don't need to think too
Okay.
much. And yeah,
Yeah.
we'll keep it light and breezy. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. So the first one is the coffee clash. Do you prefer flat white in London or a Tim Hortons double double in Toronto?
I think it has to be a double double.
Yeah. Fair enough. The homesick dish, if you're feeling down, is it a curry, a roast, or a poutine? I mean, I already know the answer to this, but
Yeah, I'll be a dal makhni any day.
Dal makhni for life. I think you need a T-shirt with
Right,
dal
yeah. I
makhni or
need a
something.
T-shirt that says dal
Yeah.
makhni. But
This is an interesting one actually, and I struggle with this all the time. The accent trap. You know, what's that one word you still say it with a different accent to rest of your ability, or you know how you speak English? Whether
oh my
Indian
God, this is
accent
such
comes
a
out, or
crazy
maybe
one.
a British accent comes out randomly. What is it?
In it comes quite a lot. So I use the word in it or bruv quite a lot. Funny enough, I mean I've been only to Australia and New Zealand once, but I think it's just because of my association and I have so many friends from New Zealand and Australia. I've picked up on a lot of like the Kiwi slangs, right? So I'll use the word like mean a lot. I'll use the word haps. So
Haps.
so these are the I think it's just because I have so many friends that are from New Zealand now
Yeah.
that like a lot of like the Kiwi lingo comes in my normal
Yeah.
language. But it's funny, like yeah, like I haven't really been to the country so much, but again I guess it brings it back to people being home. So
Yeah.
I'm so close to so many friends from New Zealand, so a lot of their language and a lot of their lingo I've picked up on. So yeah, like haps, mean, things like that I've picked up quite a lot, and it's part of my
Sweet as. That's a
sweet
big
as.
one as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Cool. Moving on. The suitcase essential. What's the one non-essential item that has moved with you throughout your journey?
Non-essential item, that's a good one. I guess speakers, maybe, like I take
Yeah.
speakers everywhere.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's a good one actually.
yeah, speakers.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that would be it. I think speakers would be
Speakers.
one of the non-essential. Yeah,
Next one. The commute. The London Underground or the Toronto TT.
London Underground any day.
Did you have a favorite line? Any favorite line in the tube
Mind the
network?
gap.
Yeah, and
No, but
that's the famous one. Yeah.
oh, you mean otherwise? Otherwise, I mean, the one I used to use all the time is the Piccadilly line, right? Like that's the
Yeah,
one that was.
that goes through a lot of attractions.
Yeah, coming from the airport to the
Yeah.
main city. Then also the DLR used to be a huge one as well,
DLR
right?
is very
Because
beautiful, very scenic.
yeah, I used to enjoy DLR quite a lot because it used to take me home all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, DLR was good. But in general, I think regardless of it being infamous for many reasons, like the London Tube and stuff, I enjoyed quite a lot. And I remember I used to sometimes while I was in UK, I used to crib about it all the time because I would like shower and like by the time I'm in the office, back to being sweaty because it used
Yeah.
to be overly crowded, overly
Yeah.
stuffy. It used to be like I would have like my tube shoes and I would have my dress shoes in the work and like I would change back and forth. But I miss that so much, and I've done quite a lot of TTC travel as well because I was working in house at Labatt in Toronto, so I used to
Yeah.
do the Toronto TTC quite a lot as well. But honestly, the London Tube is nowhere close to the Toronto TTC. Like the fun and the experience on a London Tube is far different than
Yeah.
the TTC life.
And I think the network is also quite a lot bigger than Toronto, and I think
100%,
the
yeah.
frequency of trains is amazing as well. I think
It's
that's one
amazing.
thing
And you've done that. You've traveled on
yeah,
the TTC as well. You know
yeah.
that.
I think I would say, yeah, the London Tube is amazing
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
Coming to the weather now, do you prefer the gray skies in London or you prefer the snow in Toronto?
Oh my God. Right now, I miss the gray skies so much because
Oh, really?
Canadian winter right now is extreme. And
Yeah.
to be honest, I'm talking to you where we just had a massive snowstorm. And I think literally outside me, there's about 40 centimeters of snow. So as of now, I'm definitely missing the gray skies, specifically from my office building where I would see like I would see like the entire London skyline. I'd see the London Eye and everything. So even with the gray skies, it used to look absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it is a very charming city, right? There's something about
very charming.
London.
Yeah, 100%.
Last one to finish, Saurabh. The next destination. If you have to move to a fourth country tomorrow, where are we going?
This is crazy. I'm saying about this. I've always had this one dream, and I've pretty much, there was four places I always wanted to live in apart from Toronto. One was London, which was accomplished. The other was New York City. Funny enough, I did get my experience in New York City because when I moved from COVID, when I went from UK to Toronto, briefly I started working in the New York office, and I would frequently go to New York, and I used to work off the New York office quite a lot, and I would like drive for like a week long or 2 weeks long to Toronto, from Toronto to New York, and I would stay in New York. I would work off the New York office, so I got that experience. But the fourth place, funny enough, that I always wanted to kind of really try out and make the country home was actually Japan. So Tokyo or something like
Wow,
that.
that's
So
amazing.
I really wanted, so those four cities I really wanted to be part of. So Tokyo, New York, London, and Toronto were always part of my
Yeah.
list. I got pretty much all of them, 3 out of 4, but Tokyo was the last one that I'd put in that list.
Well, you never know, you've got all the right essentials now to even make a city in Japan your home if the opportunity comes.
Yeah, well,
But until then, I think
now it's going
enjoy
to be very
Toronto.
difficult. It's going to
Yeah,
be
you'll have
very
an
difficult.
additional family member now to take, but
Yeah,
it's all exciting.
Tokyo would be very hard, but we never know. Never know.
I mean, it's been amazing to relive that journey through this episode with you, and I think there's a lot we can take from this. And I think the big one is obviously you mentioned the people that you've connected with and that are around you that make you feel that you're at home, even when you're away from home. And then obviously the sensory anchors that we touched upon, whether it was, your favorite chai spot or making chai at home or, finding the best dal makhani in Europe, which we got to a few places which were quite surprisingly really, really delicious.
I think Riga
Um,
was the most surprising place for me.
we even went search for the famous Rajma Chawal in Switzerland, but unfortunately the restaurant was closed, so we
That day.
couldn't that
We
day.
got
But
dal makhni
it's
though. That was an amazing dal makhni.
all these side quests that we did throughout our travels have been amazing as well because it's
And
interesting.
funny enough, that's what we remember the most, right? Like, do you really
Exactly,
remember
exactly.
do you really remember the Burj Khalifa or you remember the dal makhni more? Like,
Yeah,
like Global Village. Like I remember
yeah.
Global Village and the food we tried in Global Village a
Was
lot
quite
more.
amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a lot more than I remember, like, traveling the Burj Khalifa, right? Like,
I remember having a tandoori chai for the first time of my
yeah,
life in Global
Global
Village in
Village.
Dubai, and that was amazing. I still
Yeah,
think about that chai, when I need a nice tandoori chai.
exactly. Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah. No, it's honestly, Saurabh, it's been amazing talking through, your life experiences, and I'm sure our listeners have taken, a lot of positivity out of your experiences. And there's, if there's something you want to do, then there's definitely opportunities out there. You just have to grab it.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, thanks, Karan, for having me on this show. It was actually a lot of fun. It was it was a trip throughout our memory lane as well. So it was a lot of fun being part of this podcast, and I'm really excited to see how this turns out. Very, very excited.
Thank you so much, Saurabh. Have a good one. Thank
All
you.
right,
Bye.
thank you.